It is summer. It's hot and summers are getting hotter and hotter. 2023 was the hottest year since records have been kept. That's since 1850. And of course, we're all worried about climate change. Brings to mind a musical. I love musicals. 110 in the Shade was a great Broadway show. But the fact is that these days people are actually seeing 110 Fahrenheit in the shade in the southern US. Now, this is not the first time that the media has approached the topic of heat. If we go back to 1961, The Twilight Zone, one of the best shows ever on TV. This episode dealt with heat. In the story, the Earth is going out of its normal orbit and it's getting closer and closer to the sun. And of course, things are really heating up. And again, that's not the only time that heat was addressed. Alfred Hitchcock addressed it in his great TV series as well, where summer is very, very hot and people are starting to act in a very peculiar way because of the heat. And indeed, heat can make you do unusual things. It can even make your body do unusual things, like subject you to heat stroke, which of course can be very dangerous. Now to reality. Heat waves are not new. Back in 1936, North America suffered through a terrible heat wave, with eventually thousands of people actually dying. And as I said, it can affect you in many ways. It can even affect the brain. We actually have studies about that now. We had a pretty impressive heat wave in 2016, and researchers took advantage of that. At Harvard University, they examined two groups of students, one who lived in an air-conditioned dorm and the other one lived in a dorm without air conditioning. And guess who did better on exams and on our tests of memory? The students who were air-conditioned. So heat even affects our brain. And that also was taken up by the media. Spike Lee in his great movie. And in this case, it was a battle between a couple of gangs in Brooklyn. And it was in a heat wave. And of course, everything was made worse by the heat. Well, today, luckily, we have air conditioning. But a lot of people don't really know how it works. Difficult to tell it to you in a couple of words, but one quick little demonstration. If you're familiar with contraptions like this, where you just squeeze the trigger and air comes out, and you put your hand on there and you feel it getting cold. Because inside of here, we have Freon in a liquefied state. And you know when a liquid changes into a gas, it requires heat. Just put a few drops of acetone, nail polish remover on your hand, let it evaporate, you will feel the heat because it's taken up from your hand. You'll feel your hand cooling. Same thing that is happening here. The liquid Freon, when I squeeze the trigger, evaporates, becomes a gas, and that makes this feel really cold. That is the technique behind refrigeration and also behind air conditioners. And when it gets hot these days in the summer, and it's getting hotter and hotter, thank goodness we have air conditioning. If you don't have it, you can always spray some cool air on yourself.